Trace Sport, brought to you by Nokia Asha smartphones. Do it freestyle.
Being in a suit and a tie all week and working in a very formal corporate environment leads people to think one thing about you when it isn't necessarily true. I think the first thing that I can say about tattoos is that they're incredibly addictive. You know, like the way my mom looks at it would be that stereotypically a person with tattoos is someone that's a bit rougher, maybe been to prison or something like that. So dirt jumping is something that I got into when I was really young, because in Krugersdorp there were no skate parks or anything like that. There were no sort of facilities. So just down the road from my house there was some open land, so I'd go there and build with a couple of my friends. You spend more time building the jumps than you do actually riding them. It's a big thing, but it's almost like once you've built jumps and you can create whatever you want, there's like a big pride aspect to it. So you'll see overseas and even places like here, you can't just come to the jumps or the trails and ride them. You know, you've got to get in with the guys that have built them and make some friends and then be invited. If you don't dig at the jumps, if you don't put in the hours and actually help to build them, they don't let you ride. It's good in a sense because it creates like a sense of ownership between like the riders that actually build it, and it creates like a community, you know, like the guys that go down there and build, they really put in the hard work to create something that they can ride, and they can create whatever they want. Building a jump is a complicated art. It's something that comes with experience. The first few jumps I built were terrible, and they fell down and they were misshapen and they were incredibly narrow. But as you get more experience and you do it more and more, you figure out how to do it. You know, you've generally got to start with a large pile of sand. It definitely has to be wet, but not too wet, because then it just clumps together and falls off, or the actual structure becomes too heavy and it collapses. So it's got to be like the right sort of wetness, which is something that you figure out as you go along. And then you've got to just shovel it all up to the top and then start packing it down, especially on the sides and the back, to get the general structure, and then you shape the front. Every spot's obviously different. Every place you go to is different. The way the transitions on the ramps work, the best line to jump over something, it's different at every spot. So when you come to different places, like coming down to Cape Town, one of the quicker ways to learn is to follow the other guys through the lines and watch where the other guys go and where they ride that. You know, then you pick up exactly where the best places are to hit the jumps and what to do. You'll see when guys are riding some trails, it looks very smooth. You know, they're jumping the jumps and landing smoothly and then pumping rollers, and it's probably the best part about riding the jumps is just flowing through them, and it just, that smooth feeling of almost like weightlessness while you're in the air and getting the bike sideways and that sort of stuff without even doing any tricks. It's a lot of fun. I'm 26. I've been riding BMX for about 10 years now. The reason that I really kept doing it is just, it's really something that I'm very passionate about it. I started riding in Krugersdorp when I was about 16 years old. Since moved to Johannesburg and still riding. Although it's not like a team sport like rugby or soccer or something like that, you don't just go out and ride by yourself. You ride with other guys because you want to spend time with them, and you enjoy the same sort of thing as them, and you kind of feed off their energy. They'll do a trick and it'll be really good, and then you'll get excited about that and try something yourself. The biggest part is that you're actually just spending the whole day hanging out with your friends. The good aspect of it is that you get to have some exercise and some fun in between. The bike I ride now compared to the bike I rode 10 years ago is completely different. The frames used to be made out of steel, they were incredibly heavy. The geometry of the frames, like the way they would ride, was completely different. They would bend, parts would break all the time, the quality wasn't as good. Nowadays it's quite a fine science. It's very easy to ride the bikes now compared to the older bikes. They're all made of chromoly, they're much lighter, parts are more reliable. I think the industry has just grown a lot, and come a long way in the last 10 years. Another big thing about the bikes of today compared to the bikes of yesteryear is that most guys don't ride with brakes on their bikes anymore. It's not something you can just, you can't just pick up the bike without brakes on and just go ride it. But as you get more experience, it becomes more of a challenge to ride without brakes on, and it actually forces you to get better. If something's going wrong, you can't just pull the brakes. You've got to learn how to pump the jumps or anti-pump the jumps to slow yourself down or speed up. So it's I think that's the biggest difference is the brakes. Actually, my worst fall was when I just started riding. I'd only been riding for about 6 months or so, and I was literally driving down the road and tried to jump over a pavement, and I just clipped the back wheel and I went over the bars and I cracked my elbow. That was probably the worst fall that I ever had. But it's not so bad. It comes with the territory. Falling's part of riding. It's a big thing when you start riding to learn how to fall and the ways to fall and the way to get out of things. I think it's the big difference between amateur riders and, I don't want to say pro riders, but the more experienced guys. They know how to fall. If something's going wrong, they can get out of it without injuring themselves. A few years ago, also riding dirts, did a 360 and completely over-rotated and just landed, and I partly detached the cartilage from my knee. Those are generally the worst injuries to get, are those sort of ligament, soft tissue kind of injuries, because they take ages to heal. Whereas like a broken bone, it's 6 weeks and then you've got to get it strong again, you're fine. Those ligament issues, those sort of things, they always come back, You just got to land the wrong way and it's right back where you were. The feeling that I get from a good day of riding, I think it's very difficult to describe. It's like a great sense of accomplishment, especially if you've ridden and you've had a lot of fun, you haven't fallen, or you've learned something new, or you've done something that you haven't done in a long time. You've had all your friends out. It's just, I don't know, it's like a warm, fuzzy kind of feeling. I love BMX. It's something that I always will love and I will do for as long as I possibly can. My top 5 things to do, number 1 would definitely be hanging out with my family and my girlfriend. It's a big part of my life, and it's something I really love to do. Number 2 would definitely be riding BMX. Just anywhere, as long as I'm riding, it's a lot of fun. Number 3 would be riding my fixed gear bike. I really enjoy doing that. I've gotten more into it over the last little while. It's a lot of fun. Number 4 would be seeing friends and having braais and relaxing and swimming, like summer afternoon pool party kind of things. Really a big fan of the pool party. And number 5, it's a bit of a guilty pleasure, I think, but it's like Twitter and Instagram and that, keeping up with all my friends. You know, a lot of them are traveling, a lot of them are overseas now, so one of the best ways for me to see what they're doing and actively communicate with them is just to, you know, catch up with them on Twitter or have a look at their Instagram feeds just to see what they're doing. Listening to some Justin Bieber on my phone.
Play Sport, brought to you by Nokia Asha Smartphones. Do it freestyle.